Hi guys, I'm going to do a couple of problems from the homework just to get you started. So for the first part, for the first five questions, it says to balance the equations below and then write the word equations for each. I think writing the word equations for each is faster, so I'm going to do that first. I'm going to get rid of this line just because, oh no, I can just write on it. So when I look at this first set of elements, I see that there's a metal here and there's a non-metal. So the rule is that you name the metal first, and then you add IED to the second one. Or sorry, IDE to the second one. So it's going to be calcium, and then oxide. And then the plus sign, which, remember, whenever you see a plus sign, it means and. And then the second set of elements I recognize this to be water. Water. The little arrow means yields or reacts from, so I'm going to write yields. And then this one I see is a ternary compound, so it's going to be an element, and then it's going to be a polyatomic. So the rule for ternary compounds is you just name the two of them. So the first one is calcium. And then if you don't recognize the polyatomic, you might just want to look on your polyatomic list. So if I pull up the polyatomic list, I see it right here. So OH, and it's called hydroxide, so it's going to be called calcium hydroxide. So that's the first part, or sorry, well, that's the naming part, the writing the word equation. So now we have to balance it out. So for this, I'm going to make a rap sheet. So I'm going to insert a table. I'm going to count how many atoms I have. I have 1, 2, 3 atoms here. So my table is going to be a 3x4. So remember, the rap sheet is reactants. Well, the number of reactions. So I'm going to write reactants number. The second one is the atoms that are in the equations, and then it's the product number. And I'm just going to center everything because I'm crazy like that. And I like everything to look centered. Okay, so on the rap sheet, the first thing you need to do is fill in the atoms that you have. So here, the first atom I see is calcium, so I'm going to write calcium here. The second one that I see is oxygen, so oxygen is going to go here. And then the last atom that I see is hydrogen, so hydrogen is going to go here. And I see oxygen again, but since I already have it on the atom sheet, I'm not going to write it again. So now I'm going to look on the reactant side, which is before the arrow, and I'm going to count how many I have. So on the reactant side, I only have 1 calcium, so I'm going to put a 1 here. I have 2 oxygen, so I'm going to put 2. And then for hydrogen, I have 2 hydrogen, so I'm going to put 2. On the product side, I have 1 calcium, and I have, well, this is going to distribute to both of these guys, so I'm going to have 2 oxygen and 2 hydrogen, and this one turns out is already balanced, so that's it. We leave it alone. I'm going to do number 8 because number 8 was kind of trumping me a little bit. So it gives you the word equation, and then you have to come up with the formula. So it says zinc hydroxide yields zinc oxide plus water. So zinc I got from the periodic table. It's Zn, and then hydroxide we got from the polyatomic list again. So it's the same one that we used in the first example. So hydroxide is this one, and it's OH minus 1. And then yield is that little arrow. Remember, arrows mean yield. And then zinc oxide and water. So remember, it's you name the metal first, and then the second element you add IED. So I know it's zinc oxide, and then makes water. So the reason this was trumping me was because I was trying to balance it and it wouldn't balance, but then I realized that zinc is a transition metal, so it could have multiple charges. It should really be labeled on the worksheet, but it's not, so it should really say zinc 2 hydroxide, and that's why there's a 2 here, because hydroxide has a -1 charge and that one moved over here. But once I figured that out, I was able to balance it. So the atoms in this equation are zinc, so I'm going to put Zn in the middle. And then oxygen, oxygen, not 0, and hydrogen. On the reactant side, I have 1 zinc, I have 2 oxygen because this 2 goes over to both the oxygen and hydrogen. And then I have 2 hydrogen. On the product side, I have 1 zinc. I have 1 oxygen on this side and oxygen on this side, so I have 2. And then I have 2 hydrogen. And this one is actually already balanced, so we leave it alone. Let's go down to, I'm going to do number 18. So it's iron sulfide and hydrochloric acid. So iron sulfide is FeS. I'm assuming that this is iron 2 sulfide since sulfide has a -2 charge. And then that way they cancel out. Hydrochloric acid, remember, whenever it doesn't have oxygen, the rule is that you put hydro in as a prefix, and then whatever the element is, and then ic acid. So that's hydrochloric acid. Yield is the little arrow, and it says iron 2 chloride. So it tells us specifically that iron has a +2 charge here. So chloride has a -1 charge, so that goes here. That's why there's no subscript here. And then the 2 from the iron went to the chloride. And then plus dihydrogen sulfide. So this is a nonmetal with a nonmetal, so we use the prefixes. So dihydrogen tells us that there's 2 hydrogen, and then sulfide is the sulfur. So I'm going to put the atoms in the middle. The first atom is iron. The second atom is sulfur. And the third atom is hydrogen, and then the last atom is chlorine. On the reactant side, the side before the arrow, I have 1 iron, I have 1 sulfur, I have 1 hydrogen, and I have 1 chlorine. The side after the arrow, I have 1 iron, I have 2 chlorine, so I'm going to put a 2 right here on the bottom, I have 2 hydrogen, and I have 1 sulfur. So the iron and the sulfur are balanced for now. The hydrogen and the chlorine are not balanced, so I need to do something to balance out that hydrogen and that chlorine. So I need to go to the reactant side and see what I can do to the hydrogen and the chlorine to balance out to 2. So we're lucky because they're both together. So all I have to do is add a 2 here. I'm going to make this a different color so that's easier to see. So if I add a coefficient 2, it's going to multiply to both the hydrogen and the chlorine. It's going to turn this to a 2, and then this to a 2. And I'm going to change colors because those changed from the original. And now we're balanced out. So it's 1, 1, 1, 1, 2, 2, 2, 2. So all I had to do was add this 1 coefficient here, and it balanced out the entire equation. So if you have any questions, send me a remind. Hopefully this video helps, and email me if you have any more questions.